day, friends. New project on the bench, and this is the first of 2 guitars from a returning client. Now, I'm going to have to admit something here. I was not paying attention when he told me what this guitar is, but knowing Adam, when he brings me guitars, we normally always Strats, we normally always Japanese, and they're a bit of a mix-up. You might find a Squier neck on one, or maybe the odd Squier body, but they're normally always Japanese. Now, this one is a heavy Strat. We do have a Squier neck. It has been had vintage tuners put on there. Tuner branding, it doesn't say anything on there, but knowing Adam, they will not be anything cheap or crap. Nothing on the neck plate there. Lovely heavy weight. Also, knowing Adam, these pickups will be a definite upgrade. I can't remember whether he told me these were some either Eric Johnson something or they were a bare knuckle. I can't remember. I have messaged him. I'm going to find out what these pickups are. We have a 1-ply pick guard on there, which normally says it's something pretty good. Different saddles on there. I first thought they were hit shop saddles, but I'm not sure that they are. I'm not quite sure. They are roller saddles. I would imagine that this is some kind of alloy, some kind of mild steel or something, but I know for certain that the rollers in there will be steel. There's no point making them otherwise. It will be definitely be brass, but I'm thinking they'll probably be steel. They look nice. I'm sure that they are good quality. So there you go. We have a black Stratocaster. All he said to me when he bought them in was, before he bought them in, he says, just give them a once over. Whatever needs doing, do it. So I don't know what needs doing. I have seen that this has really weedy frets on there. Now Adam doesn't mind weedy frets, so we're not going for a refret. We're leaving them on there. They are, crikey, if they are over 2mm wide, I'll be surprised. I think at max they are 2.3mm wide. There's not a great load of meat on them. I would certainly say there is less than 1mm height on them, so we are going to check those. Nut is a bone nut. Just a standard wiring as far as I know. I have been using this for, it's been in the workshop a couple of weeks, and I've been using this as my pickup go-to guitar for testing out pedals and what have you. One thing I have noticed here, there is a ding in the fingerboard just there. It doesn't really interfere with play, but I am going to drop fill that with some super glue. So we'll get a repair on there. And that's it. So basically what I'm going to do is, I can already tell the radius has not been set on the bridge. This is why the strings ping out, on, especially the middle 2 strings, they ping out, they're rattling a little bit, causing a little bit of buzz. So we need to do a setup anyways, which I already knew about. We're going to check the frets. If it doesn't need any fret work, doesn't need any electrics work, it'll be a standard £50 setup on this, plus a new set of strings. I'm doing strings at £6 now, they've gone up. Still cheaper than you'll pay in the shop. I only use Diodario and Ernie Ball slinkers, so you're always going to get quality when I restring. So I'm going to strip this, see what it needs. Hopefully when I come back I will have an update as to what this guitar is. The other one, I don't think I've even got it out of the box, out of its case, so that'll be a surprise for me when I get to it anyway. But like I say, I'll have a little piddle about with this. We'll get the bridge set up. I'll do a setup with these old strings on. We'll check all the electrics, make sure everything's playing all right. Once that is done, I'm quite happy that I know where I'm going with this guitar. We'll get the strings off, we'll have the electrics out, and we'll have a look. I do know the electrics are scratching a little bit, so we need to certainly get some switch cleaner in there. I'll be checking the wiring. Once the strings are off as well, we'll be getting the neck dead straight, and we'll be checking the frets. All being well, not be a major job, but I'm not expecting those frets to be all level, so we're not going to find out until I've had a look, are we? So let me crack on, I'll have a look, I'll bring you back in and we'll decide exactly what we are going to do with this guitar. Okay, so I've not heard back from Adam, but in the meantime I have set up the guitar. I've set the action correctly at the 12th fret, I've set the relief correctly in my neck. Just for those of you who want those measurements, I like to go 0.25mm gap under the 7th fret for the relief. So that's a gap between the bottom of the not straight edge. This gubbins, which sits on the fingerboard, is 0.25mm at the 7th fret. I have a string height, the gap 12th fret on the low E, 1.75mm on the low, 1.5mm on the high. I've set the radius on the saddles to 9.5 inches, which is the radius of the neck. So we have it perfectly set up. I've set the intonation by moving saddles backwards or forwards wherever we needed to go. To set the intonation, what we do is we fret a string, we play a string open, then we play the harmonic at the 12th fret and we play it on the 12th fret. And if we're sharp or flat, we alter the saddle according to what's happening right here. So say for instance, if the fretted note is sharp, what we do is we lengthen the string. So if it's sharp, we move the saddle to the right. If it's flat, we move the saddle to the left as we look at it from this angle. That's really easy to remember. Left, flat and left are 4 letters. Sharp and right are 5 letters. So we always know which way we're going. So if a note's sharp, we move to the right, move the saddle to the right. If a note is flat, we move the saddle to the left until it gets in perfect pitch on the harmonic and the fretted note. So that is all set. I've not cut the nut slots yet. I'll do that when I get a new set of strings on later. So what I need to do now is we're going to get the strings off because we're going to check the frets. We still have a little bit of fret buzz here and there, so I'm thinking we're going to have a couple of high frets. So what first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen the strings. Right way, hopefully. A good thing about the way Adam plays is he doesn't use a tremolo, so we bolt this right down to the body and we have the springs really tight at the back, so it's predominantly a fixed bridge type affair. So we're going to get these just loose. We're not going to be using these again, so I'm going to cut them in a moment. Making sure I have enough at this end to push them right through. So we're just going to snip them round about here in front of the neck pickup. And that's it. So with the strings off, I'm just going to check the neck to see how straight it is. It may be straight enough with the string tension off, otherwise I'm out to alter the truss rod. Let's just have a look, see where we are. Normally when you take the strings off a neck, which is to tension, it normally goes pretty much perfectly level, perfectly flat. Right, we do have a little bit of backbone in there, so that is not good enough. This being a Squier neck, it should be a standard 4mm truss rod. So what we're going to do is, we're going to have a feel. It is not a 4mm truss rod, I'll tell you that for nothing. Could be a 5. It is a 5. There you go, loosen it off. Right, tiny bit of relief in there, so just tighten it up and nudger. That should be more or less straight now. Okay, we have a straight neck. That's perfect. So with the neck straight, we can now check the frets for rock. And I'm just going to skim right across. I'm not going to do a precision check just yet. Just grab a fret locker just to give me an idea. So let's have a look. And these frets being so weedy, we might not have any high ones. I'm hoping we haven't. We have one there, a little bit. These frets are that weedy. I'm very surprised if we've got any higher ones. 2. 3. So we do have 3 high spots. Those frets will need attention. We will be going now for an intensive setup, which is a little bit extra. But the fact that oh, there's one. That's quite high. That's 4. That's brilliant news. 6. We have 6 high frets. I'll count that as 5. Good thing about that is if we've got under 5 frets, we'll upgrade to an intensive setup. Any more than 5 frets, I'd have to skim across the whole lot. But there are only 5 high frets, so we're going to charge for an intensive setup where up to 5 frets are included for leveling and re-crowning. We do have a little bit of wear down here. I'll re-crown a couple of these down here as well. So we go in with an intensive setup on this guitar. We have a little hole there in the fingerboard. See if I can show you that. On the 15th fret, which is just 16th fret, sorry, right under my finger there. I'll move my finger out of the way and we have a hole. I'm going to drop fill some super glue in there, quite a few layers just to build that up. I'm not going to charge for that. You know, it's 30 minutes work. He's getting plenty of work done. So we're going with an intensive setup on this one. Sure, the electrics are fine. I've just had it plugged in as well. I played it. I didn't test the electrics. But we'll give a spray of switch cleaner in the pots and in the switch anyway. So pretty straightforward with this one. I'm just waiting for Adam to get back to me to let me know the ins and outs of this guitar and what bits are on there. We'll drop fill this, and once this one's done we can move on to his other one. Nice fret polish as well we're going to have on there. We've still got the nut slots to cut as well, and a new set of strings. With a new set of strings it's going to cost him £81 this one, so not too expensive. And it'll be fantastic. So I've talked with Adam. He's told me to get on with the work, proceed with the work. There are 6 high frets, not 5 as last mentioned, but we can forego and just bypass there being an extra one. I'm just going to still do a spot level across the frets rather than do the whole lot. And to do so I'm going to be using my Chris Allsop Precision Straight Edge file, 300 grit. This is a finer of the grits he does, and all I'm going to do is just spot level each one. By spot leveling it means I'm just going to remove the area from each fret where it's got a high spot. We will slightly touch the other frets. I'm going to re-crown them all anyway, but spot leveling, it's just, we're not going to do a whole lot. Now this is this file will remove a lot of material quickly, and what we're looking for is getting no resistance, because when we get no resistance we know the fret's level, and that one I would think was already level. So 1, 2 already done. We're just going to check the frets as I do them, and that high spot is already gone. Check this one, that still has a high spot there. That's just 2 at this end, the rest of them are at this end. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to crack on, I'm going to get these done. You've all seen the level, crown and polish frets before, so I'm not going to film everything. I want to crack on. It's my day off from Raw Mail today, and I want to crack on and get the work done, so probably not going to be filming as much as I normally would. But everything seems pretty good. What I will do, when I've got them all spot levelled, is I'll go across with a levelling beam and I'll do the whole lot. Just a couple of skims with some 320 grit just to soften these scratches I've already got in these frets. You'll find that is a levelling just about done. So I'm going to go across all of the frets. Check for any high spots again. A high spot on that edge. So while I crack on with this, I'm going to turn the camera off and I'll bring you back in once we are at the polishing stage. So when it comes to crowning these files, because they're such weedy files, they are vintage Fender, they're very small, not files, frets, very small frets. When it comes to crowning, getting a 3-cornered file or my Z file around there is going to be quite difficult, so I'm just using a proper profiling file. It's a diamond file, again 300 grit, and this will build the crown. And what it's going to do is where the frets are flat, that way we're just going to put that crown back in, and this file will do it on its own. I only use this one on small frets like this. So we do have the frets level. Not a lot of work leveling frets, especially when you've got 5 or 6 like we did on this one. The work is in polishing the scratches back out. Final wipe over a couple of frets. We needed to recrown the wire. There's some little bit of pitting, a little bit of wear on these frets down this end. Again, this could probably do with a, personally I'd refret it, but I like bigger frets than this anyway. But Adam doesn't mind these frets, doesn't mind them small. So we'll definitely get some more use out of this guitar. I would like to, personally, replace these frets where they're worn. And we've got like some deep, especially on these 3 frets, quite deep gouges in there. You'll still get away with it as it is. It's just, you know, I like to do things right. Anyway, that's the frets levelled and recrowned. We're going to need to polish them now. And to polish them, we polish them not to make them just to make them shine. We polish them to get out the scratches we've put in there by levelling. And what I tend to do is I go through with 6 or 7 grits of sandpaper, going up from 400 grit right through to 2000, polishing that way. But for me to do that, I need to get the fingerboard all taped up. Now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to drop off this guitar a little bit because we do have a deep hole around at the 16th fret here, between 15th and 16th frets, and I'm going to drop fill that with some super glue and try and get it as level as I can, if nothing else, just to stop it cracking or getting any worse. So this is a guitar I'm going to be working on probably tomorrow. I'm going to move on to another guitar in a minute, but what I will do is I'll tape up as much of the fingerboard as I can by this one. We'll drop some glue in there. Once that glue is all dried, we can come back and get these frets polished. So moving on, polishing the frets. I will be going across with 7 different grits of sandpaper. First grit being 400, and the reason we polish is to get the scratches out. The scratches are all this way, so we'll polish across the scratches. And I use 400 grit first because it really does smooth these scratches off. And what we do is we go with a finer grit of paper every time. We lose more and more of the scratches until they're gone. So when we've done, the frets will be scratch free, they will be glass like and super shiny. I always finish off with super fine steel wool. Steel wool polishing frets. We're doing the final polish. It really brings them up to a super shine. I've seen it posted, then I've read who say you shouldn't use steel wool polishing frets because this, that and the other. Absolute twaddle. You just got to do it right. I love steel wool. Nothing brings your frets up better. Once you've been across with all the grits of sandpaper. Now the grits of sandpaper I'll be using will be 400 through 2000. So 400, 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1500 and 2000 are the grits. And it's a lot of work, as you can see. It's going to take a while. More work on a 24 fret neck. I do believe this one is a 21, but don't quote me on it. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Yeah. Now you can quote me on it because I've counted them. So a few less on a 24 fret neck. See, this is what we do. Now the first polish with the 400 grit is pretty rough and it's pretty quick. And I'm going to put a glove on because this paper has aluminium oxide in there. My dad died of cancer, and that was because he polished aluminium all his life, and he was absolutely riddled with cancer when he died. He was 59 when he died. It was horrific to see. Horrible. So I'm not a fan of aluminium in any way, shape or form. But it's the only 400 grit paper I can get on a roll, so I will use it. But I should make sure I always don the gloves. Well, I'm donning the gloves, but anyway, what I'd like to note, this is a great grit to start with, 400. You see we have the old fingerboard all masked up. Otherwise we'll be putting scratches into the fingerboard, into the wood, or specifically into the lacquer on the maple fingerboard, because maple fingerboards are lacquered. I'll leave the paper or the tape on there for polishing also. That way we'll polish frets. I say polishing also, I'm actually polishing now, you know what I mean. There you go, you can see how it works. Anyway, I'm going to crack on. I'm going to cut some paper. I do have some pre-cut. I did have some pre-cut. Maybe I've used it all. Looks like I've used it, so I've got to go and cut some more. Yeah, I've used it. I do that many fret polishing jobs. I don't know how many I've got cut and how many I've got available and how many more I need to cut. So I've got to go and cut some sandpaper anyway. So I will do that. I'll get this all polished off, and once I'm ready to use the steel wool, I will bring you back in and we'll show you the results of this polishing. Just about finished polishing the frets. Like I say, 7 grits of paper, 6 there, plus a 400 I did earlier. Just been across with the finest grade steel wool, super fine, or grade 0000. What I do is I always do the bevels first, up the edge, then I come across and I do the frets. I'm just going to do these last 2. And you just pinch it over the top, get into the corners each side, pinch over the top again, and I'll show you that one more time. Take steel wool, pinch over the top, get into the corners, far side, near side, and pinch again over the top. And that is the frets, beautifully polished. We don't need that anymore, we're going to get rid of that. And that is fantastic. So I'm going to remove the glove. And those frets are done. I'm going to show you how they have come out. And you now see why I put a strip of tape lengthwise, because it means you can get all these off quite easily. Well, it's not one strip, it's a few strips. I do section it. But this is a good way to get all of the paper off in one go, or more or less one go. I mean, not exactly one go, but look at that, it's got to be easier. And how is that looking? That looks, those frets look fantastic. I can peel off this side. And that is the frets done. How wonderful do these look? Look at those. Just beautiful. So the neck is ready to go back on the guitar. We can start getting it set up and come and cut the nut slots, get the setup done, then the guitar will be ready to go. So frets are levelled, crowned and polished. I'll put the neck back on the guitar. We're going to string it up with some Diodario EXL 110s or 1046s. These are what the client has requested. So I'm going to do that off camera. Once that is done, I'm going to stretch the strings in, and then we are going to do the setup. Now setup, I have a way of doing my setups, and I suppose it's pretty normal. What I will do is I'll get the strings to tension, I'll set the radius at the bridge, so we'll alter the saddles, make sure the radius is right. Once we're under tension, I'll make sure that the neck has the amount of relief I like. I like to go for about 0.2, 0.25 millimeters under the 6th fret. Then probably 0.2 at the 5th, 0.25 at the 7th is a good action. I like to get the lower E string about 1.75 mil above the 12th fret. The higher or the first string about 1.5 mil. Once we've got all those parameters set, we'll stretch the strings again, then we'll check the intonation. Once the intonation's set, that basically will be it. Bar, we're then going to look at the nut slots and see how high the strings are above the first fret. So the last thing I'll do will be to cut the nut slots if they need doing. Then we'll check everything again, check the intonation, check the action at the 12th fret, check the amount of relief, check that the guitar stays in tune. Once I'm happy with that, we'll then look at the electrics. I'm sure the electrics are going to be fine. I may even have it plugged in the next couple of minutes just to test there's no crackling in there. If there's any scratching in the pots, it's probably best I remove the scratch plate and get some switch cleaner in there before I add strings, otherwise that's going to cause us problems later. Back soon. Right guys, I've been talking away, chattering, thinking the camera was on, and it wasn't, so the camera is now on. So what I've been doing is, I've already done it. I've got the guitar to tension, we're in tune. I've checked the intonation. The intonation's right. What else I've done is then, once I've done that, I've gone to set the neck. I've done all this. I thought I was filming, I wasn't. So not straight edge, and I'm looking for an action of 0.25 millimeters under the 7th fret, which I've now got. We've adjusted the truss rod with a 5 mil adjuster, as is right for a Squier Strat. Very good Squier Strat, this one. Made in Korea, stamped on there. It's got the by Fender logo on there as well. I really thought I was filming. I didn't press record. Anyway, 0.25 under the 7th fret. We're listening for a scrape under the not straight edge. Listen. Just scraping. So we have got the right amount of relief. So let's check back. 0.25 millimeters relief under the 7th fret. Strings to tension. The intonation is all set. What I need to do now is check the radius on the saddles. So we'll take a radius gauge. I'd imagine this is a 9.5 inch radius. We're just going to check. We are a 9.5 inch radius. Now I have set the action at the 12th fret, 1.75 mil on the low E string. That's the gap between the top of the fret and the bottom of the string. 1.5 on the high, which is perfect. The measurements I've always gone with. And we're just going to check the radius on the strings and on the saddles, and it's perfect. Now the reason it is all perfect and it is all spot on is, if you remember, I did this setup with the old strings on before I took the old strings off. So the setup was always going to be pretty close anyway. I've also had the guitar plugged in, there are no scratching pots, so this guitar, bar stretching the strings in, is all done. So I'm going to now stretch the strings. So what I do is I go to the end of the string, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch these strings in. Get plenty of stretch in there because they're brand new, they will stretch. Now, even though I'm doing this laying down, I will do all of this again once the guitar is in the playing position, because it will slightly alter. And I like to have 2 goes on the thicker strings, maybe 3 goes on the thinner strings. Then I'm going to check the relief again, because we're now putting more tension on the neck. There's more pull because we've tightened the strings, because we've obviously took the stretch out of them. to the D string. Now when we start going to the thinner strings, we're a little bit less gung-ho. I've snapped so many top E strings in my time. What we're doing is taking the stretch out of them, so we don't have to go mental, we'll just do it a few times. I was turning the D string there and trying to tune the E. I'm sure you noticed that. Right, last two, B string, a little bit less gung-ho. I like to hold it at the first fret and just give a little gentle pull. You'll feel it, you'll know when it's enough. Same with the E string, a lot less pull on there. You don't get a lot of stretch in a top E string. It will snap easier than any other string, so be careful. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the guitar in the playing position. We know that the intonation is right, we know the action's right, the intonation's right, the radius is right, the amount of relief in the neck is right. We're going to tune the guitar in again, but this time in the playing position. And let me just tell you about this neck, Squier neck. It is a beautiful neck. These earlier Korean Strats are amazing guitars. Doesn't that sound beautiful? What a wonderful sounding guitar that is. So we're just going to check again. Now it's going to be a little flatter. Intonation seems a little bit sharper on some of the notes. That may be because there's now more relief in the neck than we had before. I'm just going to check again. May need to slightly straighten this neck out to see where we are. If not, I'll test everything in the playing position. We've got one more thing to do before setup is done. Probably a little bit more, less relief in there now then. Oh, no. It's still just touching. I can go a little bit straighter on that neck. I'm going to give a very small turn just to straighten it up just a little bit. Probably a bit more relief than I would like. Just going to give it probably a 32th of a turn, and that should be enough. Then I will go again with the tuning. probably gone a little bit too much. Maybe a 64th of a turn would have been right. So I'm just going to go back just that much and just tighten again just that little bit. That, my friends, will be fine. So I'm going to bring it back to pitch with it laying down. And we are fine. So one more thing to do, check the height of the strings above the first fret, and I can already see that these are high. So everything is set. We've got the radius set, we've got the intonation set, we've got the action set, we have a relief in the neck set. We just need now to check the gaps between the top of the fret and the bottom of the string on the first fret. I would ideally be looking for about 0.2 millimeters here, about 0.3 millimeters here, and anything in between on that gradient going from 0.3 to 0.2. So going gradually lower from a bass string. The reason we go a little bit higher on the bass strings is they vibrate more. I'm already looking at these thinking these are maybe just a little bit high. So I'm looking at 0.3 on the low E. That is high. The A is close. The D is close. So we need to come a little bit lower on this side. I'll take a 0.2 for the far side. I can already see again we're probably a little bit high. So I'd like to bring the action down just a little bit on this first fret. High, high, high. So we are going to take the fret slotting files by Hosco. I've had these a couple of months. Fantastic pieces of kit. We're looking for a 1046 set. So we're going to want probably not going to want top ones. These are all the wrong way around. Okay. 28, we'll replace a 26, 36, 16 for the 17, 13, 46 and 10. They are the 6 I want. Because I don't have a 17, I have a 16, I don't have a 26. I'll use a 28 for the 26, which is a little bit wider. That's going to be fine. But we're going to cut these slots slightly lower. So we're going to start off with the 46. Made by Hosco, made in Japan, fantastic files. We always want to keep them clean. So we'll just give them a wipe after we've done so. First, 0.3 millimeters for the low E. I've left the tuner plugged in, just to keep it close. And a lot of this is done by eye and with experience. So I see we need to come down a little bit, so I'm going to try and remove the string from a knot. It seems to be pinching in there. I'd say this knot was cut for 942s, not 1046s. So we're going to take 46, we're going to slightly widen the nut slot as we cut more in the slot a bit deeper. You don't go gung-ho with these, just small amounts at a time. It may be just that because the string was quite wide, it wasn't sitting properly. So I always bring back to pitch. Rattling just a little bit, we can go a little bit deeper. Thing is, keep measuring, keep checking, don't go mental, because you go too deep, you're placing the whole knot, and that's going to cost you time and money. Just little cuts. That's enough for me. Buzz in. Good 0.3 there. So we're going to move on to the next one. So we're going to clean the file. I will attack them with a wire brush shortly to make sure we've got any of the debris out of there. Keep them sharp. They'll last you for years. I think these cost me about £130 for this set. So you want to be looking after your tools. Right, 36 the next one. So we'll check again, give it a measure. Doesn't need to go too far. Again, that slot might be just cut a little bit narrow for the string, so it just could be, it could already be deep enough, just not wide enough. Just buzzing, so I'm going to check that with 0.25. And if we're getting a slight buzz, we are enough. Perfect. So the next one we're going to go with a 0.25. So okay, that one was pretty easy. Now the next one we don't have a 0.2, so 0.026. The closest we have is a 0.028. It's only a tiny bit wider than it needs to be. Let's just check the height again. A little bit higher. We need to be about 0.25 on these middle two. So I'm not going to go mental. As soon as I start seeing flakes of bone dust like I have, I'm going to stop. That's good enough for me. Very tiny adjustments, but it makes the guitar much easier to play. It means we have to press a lot lighter to play a chord, and we're not going to go out of tune. If these strings are too high above the first fret, when you bar an F chord or an F sharp or maybe even a G, you're going to be sharper than the actual note you want because you're having to press more distance. So you want to get the strings more or less as close to the fret as possible without it buzzing or ringing. And that way, when you come to press for a note, you're only pressing a little bit and it's not stretching the strings too much and you're not going to be sharp. So the next string, 0.017. We don't have a 0.017 file, we have a 0.016. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take the 0.016 and we're going to slightly, as we cut, we're going to angle that way and angle that way just to widen that slot, just to make it up to a 17. So we know we need to remove some cut the slot deeper. So once we start seeing dust, we're going to cut that way and cut this way. And that's it. And I think you'll find we're pretty much there straight away. You know we've cut because we are flat. We're not deep enough yet though, got a little bit of a way to go yet. Don't want to go too deep. Go too deep, we're replacing everything. You don't be knackering a nut up at this stage when you're nearly finished. Very close to where we want to be, but no cigar. I think you'll find we are there with that. Perfect, just buzzing. So now what we're going to do is we've got the last two to do. We're going to drop to a 0.20 millimeters. Did I say 0.02 and 0.03 and whatever earlier? I didn't mean that, I meant 0.02. Unless I was talking about files. So we'll go to the next one, which will be a 0.013. That's right, I'm getting my inches and my millimeters mixed up. It's a problem with the Americans doing everything in imperial measurements, and here we're metric. So my feeler gauge is metric, but my nut slot files are imperial. This is in inches, 0.13. It makes things confusing. It's why I have an imperial and a metric action gauge from StuMAK. I have both of them, and I can use either or. It's just I'm so much used to working in metric sizes, as we are anywhere else other than America and a couple of other countries. Anyway, back to the job in hand. I want to be just over 0.2 on this one, so I'm not going to go too gung-ho. So 0.013 of an inch. I've got the correct size file. These files, by the way, these Hosco nut slot files, will cut a perfect U shape. They won't cut a V like some of them do. Some of the cheaper ones, they will cut a proper shape. So once you get to the height, you're fine. Small cuts. That's probably good enough. Yeah, because we need to be over 0.2. So this last one, 0.02. Sorry, at 0.2 of a millimetre, a little bit high there. That is a 0.01 of an inch file size. My goodness, imperial versus metric. So we're just going to cut this one back. Don't go mad on this, is a very sharp file. You can do this by eye. And that's just buzzing enough for me, and that, my friends, is done. So I'm going to stretch the strings in again. Once that's done, we're going to move the camera, we're going to finalise the video. Very happy with how that went. Not a difficult job, but it's a very easy job to mess up, so you really got to take your time. Practice, 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 and hone your skills. And you know, because I've made many mistakes on nuts, but I've done it off camera, I've not shown on camera, and I've had to replace a nut. And it's 15 quid a time plus half hour to an hour's work. You know, hour's work 30 quid, new nut 12 quid, it's 45 quid it's costing you each time. So take your time and do it right. So that is done. We've got the setup done. I'm just going to measure the action again at the 12th fret. It may have come a tiny bit lower because we're cut into the slots, but it shouldn't be anything too drastic, and it'll be something very, very, very slight. So I'm going to measure the action at the 12th fret again on the low E, and we are just over 1.75. I'm very happy with that. And on the high E, exactly 1.5 millimeters. That is fantastic. So we've got the action right. Just need to tune the guitar in one more time. Beautiful, that is the guitar done. So the first of Adam's two guitars is finished. It is a made in Korea Squier with the by Fender registered trademark sticker on there. Blah, 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 blah. Fantastic guitar. Upgraded Fender tuners, the vintage type. It's had a setup, it's had a fret level and polish. And that really is it. Mother's milk pickups on there, the height's pretty good. Lovely roller saddles, which I love. They will be some kind of alloy or some kind of mild steel, but trust me, the rollers will be steel rollers. Looks fantastic, plays really well. No scratching on the parts, very easy setup, but I did do the setup before I took the old strings off, as I always do, which makes it easier later on. I've also filled this ding here. I've drop filled with some thick super glue. Not perfectly flat, but the reason I've not done it perfectly flat is it really too difficult to sand and polish anyway. So I've just basically drop filled that just so you don't lose the string in there. We've stuck some Diodario 1046s on there. For those of you who want the proper name, they are EXL 110 strings, blah 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 blah, and the guitar is beautiful. These Squiers, especially these Korean ones, are fantastic guitars. Lovely necks on these. This is no exception. Frets for me, a little bit weeder, 2.3mm. I would like to see chunkier frets on there, but that's just me. Mother's milk pickups in there. I don't know, but I've not looked at the electrics, didn't need to. I've had it tested, plugged in, there's no scratchiness on the pots anywhere, so we don't need to touch anything. Everything's been done, the intonation's been set, the radius on the saddles has been set, the action at the 12th fret. We have got the right amount of relief in the neck. I've recut the nut slots on the bone nuts, and the guitar is good to go. What a fabulous guitar this is. Don't ever knock these Squiers, these earlier, especially the earlier Korean ones. Just fantastic guitars, but this one is done. So one thing for me to do is to remind you of my website, facebook.com/ng17. That's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I'm also at fretfriend.co.uk. I am Fretfriend. I'm Victor, your Fretfriend. And until next time, as always, God bless. Be good to each other, and I'll see you in the next one.